Welcome, everyone, to our Mysticsense series episode. This episode is a bit different from our previous episodes in that it's going to be me sharing my experience and practical tips to help you get better at divination. Today's episode, or this week's episode, is all about beginners and how to start your journey into divination from the very beginning, even if you know nothing about divination tools. So let's dive right in, sit back, and if you want to pull out some notes or a pen, it might be a great episode to come back to or write down some tips that you might want to apply in your life, especially if you are looking forward to getting started on your divination journey from the beginning. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Start your journey with divination by asking yourself why. Why do you want to start doing divination? Why do you want to try to do readings? Whether it's tarot, astrology, numerology, or any other tool, what is it that is drawing you towards the realm of divination in particular? Knowing your big why, knowing the reason behind that is super important because that's your main motivator. That is the reason you're starting on this path. That is the purpose that you have to be doing this. And whenever you get frustrated or you feel stuck in your journey with divination or with psychic readings, knowing that big why is going to help motivate you. It's going to help get you back on track to continuing your journey and continuing that growth, even if it gets tough at times. Every new skill does get tough at times, and the learning curve is an up and down, and that's natural. That's with anything in life. And divination or spirituality as a whole really is no different from that. So understanding why you're doing this is vital to staying on track, to maintaining that progress, and to continuing this beautiful gift into the future and getting to a point where you can really help people's lives and help share your abilities with others. So there's many reasons why people are drawn to divination. A few of the common ones might be that you want to read for other people. You want to help people make changes in their lives. You want to help people spiritually. It could be that maybe you went through a time or a period in your life where it just seemed like nothing could work for you, or no one had the answers that you really needed. And so you went to a psychic to get that information, and perhaps it really helped you. Perhaps it changed your life. There's many reasons why people become involved in divination or become interested in it. Those are just a few of them. It could be that you know someone who's a psychic and you really admire them, or you wish you could do that. It could even just be that you're interested in tarot cards. Maybe you're just drawn to them, or you're interested in a specific tool, and that could be the motivator behind why you want to give readings. But a lot of times people are looking for the deeper meaning behind this, and they're looking for purpose in their life, or they're looking for what the divine has in store for them. They want to understand their fate. They want to create their fate. They want to understand their future. And that right there can be a big motivator for people to learn how to use divination tools. So really understand that big why question, and not just on a surface level, not just because you think tarot's cool, not just because your aunt does it, but really understand the purpose that you have for learning this skill, because it is a skill. It is a gift, yes, and many people are born with their gifts. However, it's also a skill set, and it is something that people can develop as well through practice and through learning the tools. So don't feel like you're not able to, because everybody is able to start somewhere. Everybody is able to start their journey with divination. And then this is the first step. This podcast right here is the first step, even if you don't know anything about it. I just remembered I forgot to introduce myself. You may be familiar with me and my face as the host of the Mysticsense series podcast that we do weekly. Every Monday, a new episode comes out. My name is Phoenix Normale. If you're not familiar with me, I am a psychic on mysticsense.com as well. So you can find me there to get a reading with me if you feel inclined to, or if you'd like to talk about any of these topics in more depth in a spiritual way. So really sit with that big why. And once you do that, once you get to the root of your interest here, the root is important, because To use an analogy, your divination journey and your spiritual journey, you can think of it as planting a seed that's growing into a large tree, whatever tree that you want to visualize. But you are planting that seed just by having that purpose, having that big why. That reason is the water that you're giving to that seed. That reason is the nourishment that's helping that seed grow. The light that is giving it life and helping it expand. That is your why. That is your reason. It's what you want to get out of this journey. And that is super, super, super important to know what that is right up front before you even step foot on the more practical aspects of this path. And I want to say also, before I move on to the next section of this, the next question, let's say, the big why for why you're doing this is going to be different for every person. There's no right or wrong way. It could be as simple as honoring your ancestors because your ancestors had a long line of doing divination. For example, me personally, my great-grandmother did tea leaf reading, and I learned how to do it because I wanted to honor her. And that could be your big why. There's no right or wrong. There's no one answer for this, but everybody has a reason why they're drawn to this path, and it is different for every person, and that's a beautiful thing. So it's about understanding what it means to you personally on a personal level, and that's going to make it so much more powerful and personal to you because it really affects you in a deep way. So I just want to put that out there. So next question is to the tools. So with divination, especially when you're starting out, a lot of people feel overwhelmed. And I myself, when I started reading tarot in particular, I felt very overwhelmed by that because I actually started with oracle cards. The idea of learning 78 cards and their structures and their meanings was just so intimidating to me. On the note of tools, and I'm saying that because there are so many tools out there. It's countless, really. You can use anything as a divination tool. Some people do palmistry. Other people read tarot. People read the runes, birth charts. Astrology is a huge umbrella. There's so much that goes into that. There's the moon, there's the sun, there's the rising. There's many other things. There's aspects. There's the planets. And there's so much into it that just even astrology itself could be intimidating to someone who's just starting out. So when it comes to tools, don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. You don't have to learn them all to be a great psychic. In fact, I don't think anyone can read every single divination tool. We're all drawn to different tools for a reason. So when it comes to these tools, after you find your big why, you want to look at yourself. You want to say, what tools am I drawn to? What fascinates me? What's calling me? Even if you don't know what they're called or what they mean or how it works, what is pulling your attention? What do you feel drawn to? And you're going to want to use your intuition a little bit with this. If you are struggling getting connected with that intuition, it's okay. Don't worry. A lot of people start with pendulums because they're pretty common. They're pretty readily accessible, and they're pretty simple. It's yes or no usually. But you don't have to start with the pendulum if you don't feel drawn to that. There are so many different tools that instead of looking at them all and saying, oh my gosh, what tool do I pick? You just want to say, okay, what tool am I drawn to? What is calling me? What do I keep thinking about? What do you keep being drawn to? What keeps popping up in your life? Do you keep seeing tarot cards when you're scrolling the internet? Maybe you keep seeing advertisements for palmists or something. Whatever that tool is, take a note and say, how do I feel with this? Does this overwhelm me? Does this feel comfortable to me? Is this fascinating to me? Am I drawn to this? Do I want to learn about this? Is it a fixation even? Knowing those, noticing those, I should say, is the first step to picking the tool. And again, there's so many different tools. It doesn't have to be a common tool. It's more important that you connect with that specific tool, even if that is just receiving images, receiving visions, or even just intuitive senses. A lot of psychics don't use any tools at all, and that's perfectly great as well. But I do feel, again, my opinion personally, if you're starting out from a very, very, very beginner place, it can be helpful to have at least one divination tool to help you learn. And really, the tool is not there to give you all the answers. The purpose of the tool is to point you in the direction that your intuition is guiding you in. So approaching it like that, saying, okay, I'm a beginner, you can think of it as training wheels almost. You're starting out on this path, and that tool is just there to guide you, to help you kind of pay attention to certain things and pick up on certain things that you would be otherwise unaware of. And that's really the purpose of the tool. And don't feel like just because you're starting with a certain tool means that you have to stay with that tool. People change, energy changes, your needs, your wants, they all change throughout your life. So if you feel really drawn to the pendulums and you start using them, and then a few years later you no longer have any interest in them, that's fine. You don't have to keep using it when you're no longer attracted to it. It's just, it was helpful during that first learning period. So when you are picking out the tools, don't get overwhelmed. That's my biggest piece of advice. Just relax, take a deep breath, and say, okay, what am I drawn to? What is calling to me? What do I want to learn more about? And that is really the best step that you can take. And it doesn't matter what that tool is. What matters is that you feel a connection or an affinity with it in some way. So our next topic, our next question is, our next step, I should say, is all about learning that tool. Now, this is a very important part of your journey. So we have, you've discovered the reason why you are attracted to divination, the reason why you want to start doing readings, whatever that is. You've discovered at least one tool that you feel drawn to, even slightly. And you only really need to start with one tool. If it's multiple tools, that's fine too, but you can pick one to start with. It will make it slightly easier. You can rinse and repeat the process as many times as you want. But our next step is to learn the tool inside and out. So I would recommend to my students or people that I'm talking with, when you're first starting out as a beginner with no previous experience, I would say go ahead and book learn that tool. By book learn, I mean do the research, read books on it, do online research, research the history, the background of it, research the modern approaches to using this tool, learn about readers historically and current that use that particular tool with their readings, watch videos of them giving readings. All of that is going to help you get familiar with the tool and some ways that it's used. Don't let this limit you, because you don't have to use it the same way as another psychic. But understanding how psychics are using the tool can really help you in just connecting with it and give you ideas when you're first starting out. So the history is very important here as well, because when you're learning something, you want to understand where it came from. That energy, you can kind of think of it as a generational energy of the item, where it came from, its origins, its purposes. It carries that with it. You, by connecting with this tool, by giving readings with this tool, you're interacting with that history and you're carrying it forward in a sense that you are creating the future. You're creating the history of the future with your interactions, with your uses of this tool, because you are becoming a part of that tool's history by reading with it, at least in my opinion. That's kind of how I see it. And to see it in that way can be really empowering, because you don't have to, it really changes the history. Like, you don't have to see the history you're reading as something that happened in the past. You can see it as more of a progressive that you're currently connecting with. You're connecting with that heritage, with that background of that tool, with these people that used it historically. You are now a part of that by using this tool, by learning this tool, and by becoming a reader with it. Even if you're not that great in the beginning, you are still stepping on that path. You're becoming a part of the future of that tool. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to look at, especially if the tool is it's new to you, it's foreign to you. If you're struggling with it, just remember that you're creating its future as well. And I know when I researched the Lenormand, and I do this process, by the way, with every new tool that I pick up. It doesn't matter what it is, but I also follow this process, even as an experienced psychic, because I want to understand the tools I'm reading, their background, their history, and their purpose, even if I don't use it for that intended purpose. At least I honor its history. And anybody can do this research. You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be reading with the tool. You don't have to know much about it. That's the beauty of it, is it's a learning experience, and you learn about yourself through this process as well. But one example of this is when I was learning about the Lenormand for the very first time, the Lenormand cards. And I had read some of the history stories, and now it's speculative how truthful they are, but there's quite a very fascinating origin story for the Lenormand. If you're not familiar with it, definitely something to Google, even if you just want to share a creepy ghost story around a campfire. It is very, very interesting, the history of the Lenormand. And now, again, no one can really verify how accurate that is. The most that they can say is that it was the time frame and the person actually existed. Anyway, regardless of what that history is, reading it really helped me connect with the cards, because understanding Marie Lenormand, the lady who invented them, or at least is credited with inventing them, she understanding how she used the cards, and she was a very powerful and influential psychic advisor for her time period, really helped me connect with that history, even if it was made up. The fact that she used the cards and she was a real person, and she made such an impact on the country that she lived in at that time. Like, she was the person to go to if you need a reading. And knowing that and seeing that, she's connected to the origin in such an intimate way really inspired me to use the cards in a more pronounced way in my practice, because really anyone can have the potential to be an amazing psychic, and anyone can create their own divination tool, but it begins with understanding how it works and where it came from. I do believe the Lenormand may possibly be based on another deck of cards. Don't quote me on that. But if that is the case, to look at that story and say, wow, and take a step back and say, she created this legacy out of potentially a different rubric from a different suit of cards. Again, don't quote me on that, but to look at it from that perspective and say, what can I do with this divination tool for the future, is a really empowering thing, in my opinion. And this can go for any form of divination too. It's constantly evolving. It's not something that was set in stone in the past. Nothing is set in stone with divination or spirituality as a whole. And a lot of us psychic advisors, we tell our clients that the future is not set in stone. You can change it. We can tell you what's likely to happen. We can tell you what is most likely to happen based on today's energies. But if you make a radically different decision when you walk out of the room, you could potentially alter your future in a drastic way. And divination tools are the same way. When you pick up that tool, you learn that tool, you understand that tool, and you connect with it in a way that changes the future, that is a very powerful thing that I feel is ultimately an unlimited potential for the future of divination as a whole. And you, as a beginner stepping on this path, looking at these tools in that way, not as this overwhelming structure that you have to follow, because that's not what they're there for. They are a guide. They're a guidebook to help you step into the spiritual path. They are not a rule book that you're stuck by. And when you can look at it that way, as a guiding point to creating this beautiful change and these beautiful abilities, to really tap into our intuition, and whether you use the cards or the runes or whatever tool the way that they're traditionally used, or whether you use them in a new way that you invent, it doesn't matter, because the tool is serving the purpose. And I feel like that's the beauty of it. So again, on this topic, on this question, the next step when you choose the tool is to learn all you can about it, including its history, because you need to understand it if you're going to truly create a relationship with it. Again, whether you intend to use it traditionally or not is irrelevant, but it's important to understand where it's coming from so that you can truly connect deeply with it. So you can do this through reading books on it. online research, historical research, talking to people who use this specific tool, talk to psychics that use this tool, ask them what it's like, ask them what it was like when they learned about the tool. Also watching videos of people doing readings with the tool, getting a reading from someone who uses this tool. All of that is going to really help you build that connection with the energy of the tool collectively. So the next step that I have when you are learning divination from a very beginning place is so of course we're talking about divination with the tool. You've learned about it, you've understood it. This is before you actually get it. Or if you already have a tool, maybe someone gave you one, you can put it aside until you really understand it and then pick up the tool and begin working with it. But you can also make your own tool, especially if you are having issues getting the item. I know some people don't have access to metaphysical stores. Some people can't order a rune set or something online. It's difficult for them to physically get the tool, and I understand that, especially in certain parts of the world. People don't have access to these kinds of things, and that's totally okay. You can make your own tool if you don't have access to one. And I feel like that's even preferred in some cases. There are beliefs about how to get tools. Some people say you have to have your first tarot deck given to you by someone. Other people disagree with that. Some people think you have to make your own rune set in order for it to work properly. And other people disagree with that. So it really depends on you and your beliefs. And this goes back to step one about asking yourself why. You also want to look at your beliefs. Do you have beliefs around how you need to get the tool? Do you believe personally, not someone else, not another reader, no one else, but you? Do you believe that you have to make the tool for it to be powerful? Do you believe that someone has to give you the tarot deck for it to work effectively? What are your beliefs personally about this? And if you have that belief, that's going to be true for you. If you don't believe that, it may not be true for you, but it's very important to look at your own beliefs and incorporate them into how you're going to get the tool. You can buy one, you can make your own, you can be given one. You could even make it a group project. If you're doing this journey with friends, which I think is fantastic, if you have friends that are also interested in it. Again, very beginner friendly. They don't have to know anything about spirituality to start this journey and start learning about these divination tools. But you could make this a friend group thing. You could have a craft party and build your own tarot deck or build your own oracle deck or make your own runes. And I actually made my own rune set with a friend of mine. And it was a really very interesting experience. I think it was a good bonding experience because we stayed up really late and we were burning the runes into these antler pieces that we had. And it was just a really great thing. And so making it fun, making it something that has memories attached to it can be really powerful as well. And you don't have to go out and spend money necessarily to do that. Now, I do want to talk a bit deeper about making your own tool because I do think it's a beautiful thing to do. When you make your own tools, some people, again, this is my personal belief, but not everyone agrees with it. That's okay. But some people, including myself, believe that making your own tool will add your own essence and energy into it while you're making it in the process. And that will actually empower and connect the tool to you in a much deeper level than you would if you had bought it at the store. That is a belief not everyone agrees with. I personally ascribe to it. But the idea behind that is that everything is energy. So if you are putting that time, that effort, that attention into creating this tool, whatever it is, and you're focusing on it and you're touching it, your blood, sweat, and tears are literally in that tool. That is your energy. That's part of your soul. That is your value going into that item. And that is going to return to you when you use it for divination. Again, in some people's beliefs. Because everything's energy. So that really is a form of charging and consecrating in itself because that tool is now part of you and it came from you and you created it, which gives it so much power because it wouldn't be there without you. So that is a belief that will add a very, very strong connection and will really help, especially if you're a beginner, with connecting to that tool and receiving intuitive guidance from it, because it's literally part of you at that point. So that intuition, that guidance is going to come a lot easier for you at least. Um, and again, this depends on your belief. Not everyone believes that. I don't have anything against store-bought tools. I've bought most of my tools, but I also have created some as well. And this is especially great if, if you're in a place that you don't have access to buy a tool. And if you feel like you can't afford to order antlers or something online, there are divination tools that don't require items as well, like palmistry. You just need the palm of your hand. That's all you need. Research, lots of study, lots of research, the palm of your hand. You don't even have to buy a book necessarily. You can look it all up online. That time, that study that you put into that effort is going to also pay off as well. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Astrology is another great one, as well as numerology, where you don't necessarily have to have a physical item. And of course, you can read without tools as well, but those are some tools that don't require a lot of upfront expense. Now, runes as well, and the Ogham, which is a Celtic rune set, kind of, well, it's not runes, but it's similar, a Celtic alphabet that is used for divination. Those can be made out of wood or stone. You can literally go outside and find some pebbles or find some river rocks or something that means something to you and paint or carve those symbols onto the items from nature, and that's a low cost way to get a divination tool as well. I know someone who did that with runes and some sticks that he had, and it was very effective. It worked well for him. He put a lot of energy behind that, and it actually worked quite well for him. So that's another option. You don't have to go out and buy a tool, especially if you're not sure if it's the right tool for you. But that is some ways that you can get the tool, because you do have to get the tool if you're going to be using it, right? So again, to recap our steps, the reason why you learn about it, you pick your tool, you learn all about it, and then you build or make or buy the tool so that you have it in your possession. So the next topic, the next section, is all about practice. We can't get good at something without practicing. And this is true for anything in life. You have to practice in order to excel at something. Divination and psychic readings and spirituality is no different. You have to put that practice, that energy, and that effort in order to get good at it. This does not mean you have to do it every day, but it does mean that you should try to do it consistently, at least sometimes, and get that practice in, because that's going to build your confidence. It's going to help you get familiar with the tool. It's going to help you connect with it even deeper and get a better understanding of what it means for you, how it connects with you. Because the tools, I've personally found that the tools connect differently to each person and their energy. No two psychics are going to have the same exact style of how they read. It may be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And that's just because no two people are exactly the same. So my connection with runes is not going to be the same as someone else's connection with runes. And my connection with the tarot is going to be different from every other tarot reader, even if it's very, very slightly different. It still won't be exact. That's important to understand. So don't feel like if your interpretations, if your readings, if your practicing is not by the book exact, don't feel bad, because that's just your own spin. That's your own way of connecting to that tool. And that's a beautiful thing. And the more you use it, the more you're going to understand how you connect with it personally. So practicing is very good. I have a lot of things to say about this question. So let's dive right in. So some people like to do a whole process once they get the tool. They understand it, they're going to start using it, but before they start using it, they do a whole process: the cleansing, the charging, the consecrating. Okay, cleanse, charge, consecrate. I would suggest do it in that order if you're going to do it. The reason why is because the cleansing is going to purify anything that you don't want in that tool. A lot of people, they get a new tarot deck or they get a new tool. I'm just using tarot as an example, by the way, because it's the most common tool, in my opinion, that I've seen. out there. It's very common. A lot of people are familiar with it. And if you're just starting your journey, you may not be aware of some of the tools I've mentioned, but tarot, most people know what tarot is. So you get the new deck, you get the new tarot deck. A lot of people cleanse it right away. They open the box, they do an unboxing video, they're all excited, and then they do a cleanse. And the reason why is because everything is energy, like we talked about. So during the shipping, during the packaging, the creating process, there's going to be energies that this thing is picking up. And you may not know what those energies are. They may be good, they may be bad, they may be neutral. But do you really want that unknown energy in your tool and in your reading? Most people don't. Now, I feel like this is a bit different if you create the tool, because it's oftentimes your energy that has gone into it during the creation process. But in general, a lot of people do like to cleanse, and there's many ways to do that. And if you're a very, very, very new beginner, using a stick of incense or some any kind of smokes, Palo Santo, sage, there's lots of different things, lots of herbs you can use. Incense is great, a candle. Just waft it through the smoke and imagine that the smoke is going through the item and filling it, and as it leaves, all of that stuff is being taken away with the smoke. You can also waft it over a candle flame and imagine the same thing. Imagine the candle going into the item, filling it and burning away anything that is not for its highest purpose. And you can even say that anything not for your highest purpose, anything that does not have good intent, is removed by this flame of fire or by this smoke of air, whatever you want to say. And that's just a really simple way to cleanse it. That's really all you have to do. There's also various visualization methods. There's lots of other ways you can do this, but I feel like for the very beginner, that's probably a very good start. You could use sound as well. If you're sensitive to smoke or flames, you can use sound, you can use bells, you can use a singing bowl, you can even just hit some pans together. And that sound vibration can remove the energies that you no longer want in the item. So you can cleanse it and you can charge it. And now a lot of people don't understand the difference between charge, consecrate, and cleanse. The 3 C words, C. And they're like, what is this? Why do we have to do this? Charging. So a lot of people, again, not everyone, a lot of people like to charge their spiritual tool before they use it. And the idea behind that is once you cleanse out the energy, you have to put something else back in. So if you think of your tool as like a pouch and you're taking everything out of your pouch, if you don't put anything back in it, stuff is going to accumulate, whether it's dust or like whatever the case is, stuff accumulates in empty spaces, right? In general. And so when the same is for our divination tool, when you have an empty tool, you've cleansed it, you've purified it, there's nothing left in it, you need to fill that void with something. Okay. And that's where charging comes in. Charging is where you fill the item with a positive energy source that empowers it and gives it strength and gives it just kind of it's like charging a battery, charging your phone. It gives it energy to do something with. And what we're doing with it, especially when we're using it, is often divination. You can use a lot of divination tools for other things besides divination as well, but I feel like that's for another episode, for another time. But yeah, so you charge, so you give it that charge, literally, like charging your phone, so that it's empowered to do something. It's empowered to interpret those energies. And now, not everybody does these 3 steps. That's okay. But if you are a beginner, these are some steps. These are some tips that I feel like a lot of people may benefit from. You don't have to do all of these, but you can if you want to, especially just starting out. It's good practice. So the charging, it can be done so many ways, just like the cleansing. You can use sound to fill it with a positive vibration. You can sing over it. You can also use sunlight. You can put it out in the sun for an hour or so and just imagine the sun filling it up, just like we imagined the air going through the item, you're going to imagine the sun just filling it up like a cup. It's filling it up with sunlight. You can also just hold it in the moonlight and have it charged that way. You can also do it with, again, we talked about the sound with visualization. You can use Reiki. If you practice Reiki, you can use Reiki. Even just intention, just holding it to your heart space and, putting that good intention and just filling it with love and feeling that love from your heart fill the item. That is enough to charge it with good intent. And you're filling it with that loving energy. So the next step, and possibly the last step, would be to consecrate it. Now, I don't hear about consecration being talked about that much online, which is surprising to me. Some people do talk about it, but I have not heard about it being talked about a lot recently. I've heard about the cleansing, I've heard about the charging a little bit, but I haven't heard much about the consecration. So if you're not familiar with this term, the way that I am using it personally, which may not be the way everyone uses it, is that consecration is making something sacred. And by sacred, I mean it is set apart for a spiritual purpose and a spiritual use only. It is made sacred, it's set apart, this is your sacred tool. And consecration is literally designating it for that. And I personally, in my opinion, feel that consecration is also protective to an extent. And that's probably the main reason why I would do it to my divination tools. I don't always consecrate them. I feel like it's optional depending on the intent of the tool. Again, my opinion, my own practice. But the consecration, I feel, does protect, because when you set something aside as sacred, it's harder for stuff to accumulate within it without permission, without being sacred. You need to be sacred, basically, unless it's like really intentional. But I feel like for the most part, consecrating your tool is going to make it pretty much connected and pretty much protected from anything that you might be worried might get into it or affect it in a not so great way. So the consecration, there are, again, many ways to do this, and some of them are religious, some of them are not. There's many ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's what matters is that it means something for you. It makes it sacred for you, and it means something important to you. One simple way that I like to consecrate my tools personally is by using the 4 elements, because I feel like the 4 elements, the 4 classical elements, are within everything, again, my belief, and that by consecrating them with the 4 directions and the 4 elements, we are calling in that energy of the cosmos of all 4 directions to protect and make sacred whatever it is that you're consecrating. That's my belief on it. So a good, easy consecration I would do is to, and even above and below as well, is to put it on an altar with the 4 elements around it, and to call in, invoke the 4 elements one at a time, earth, air, fire, and water. Ask them each one at a time to enter the item, to consecrate the item, and to make it holy and sacred with that intent. I would say element of air of the east, represented by this incense stick or this feather, or whatever it is, this singing bowl. Please come consecrate and bless this item, making it holy and sacred with the element of air and by the east. And I would like ring a bell or something and say it is so. I would hold it up and present it to the east, and then I'd say thank you. You always want to say thank you when you're asking for something, and it doesn't matter who or what it is. It's just good to say thank you, give something back when you're asking for a favor. Then I would go, to the fire. I think the fire is second. Yeah, I did think about that, my training. So you would go to the south, east, south, and then you do the same thing. Element of fire, please come consecrate and bless this item, making it holy and sacred by your flame, and then hold it over the candle or whatever. And again, if you don't want to light something, you can use sound for air. You can use a symbol for fire, like a little tea light candle can work. It doesn't have to be a flame. You can use anything that represents heat, really. even like one of those little heating packs that you might put in your shoe or something. You can use that to represent fire because it's heat, you know? You can use crystals, can be used in so many ways. But the point is that the element is there adding its essence to your item. And you go around to water in the west and then earth in the north, and then you think, and you can do above and below as well. But you want it to touch each element. So like you could put some soil on the item, you could sprinkle water on the item, you can put it over incense, you can put it over a candle flame. Again, be very careful with these things. Watch carefully if you're lighting anything on fire. Be present, be aware of it. Safety first, and if you don't want the item touching these things, just waft it over. You don't have to actually touch the element. But that is one way to consecrate it, and that way the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west, are present in the item and are consecrating it, really, making it sacred. And that way you don't have to worry so much, if people touch your cards and they have really icky energy, or like if things happen, you don't have to worry as much, in my opinion, because the elements are protecting it, the elements are making it sacred, and it's pretty hard to remove that consecration once it's done. And I do feel like the consecration is a one-time step, in my opinion, in my practice. And it's not, I don't do it to most of my tools. Actually, I do it to the ones I use that are very important to me, but I don't consecrate all my divination tools. Definitely not. But some people do, and that's fine. And this is an optional step that you can do if you feel like it's important. And again, this is one way of consecration. There are many others that you can also do as well. You can even just Google, do some research, different consecration methods. Some are very religious, some are not. And it just really depends on you personally. But the point is that you feel a deep connection. You feel like this item has been made sacred to you. Now you want to make sure that your own energy is added to this item. Again, the charging is really good, but you need to do something further. You have to connect it to yourself. One way that I like to connect my new tools to me, to my energy, is by breathing on them. I feel like our DNA is very important in spiritual work, because it literally is the essence of us. And like, I would call that a tag lock, which is something for another episode. But to just kind of summarize, a tag lock is a piece of your body, a piece of you that connects your energy. It's from you. It is you. It could be fingernails, hair, your breath. It could be your saliva, whatever it is. It is of your body, and so it represents you on the spiritual plane, and you can use that spiritually to connect yourself to things. Whether it's a spiritual tool or manifestation, whatever it is, I call that a tag lock, and it can even be a picture of you. But I use my breath as a tag lock to my tools, because my breath is of me, it's out of my body, it's a part of me. So I will literally hold each card and just breathe on the front and back, just blow on it, and that connects me to the card. And I'll go through the whole deck, every card front and back, while I'm meditating, and that's how I connect myself to my deck. Some people just hold it to their heart and they say a little prayer. They say, I bless, I connect with this deck, that it's mine. And some people like to sleep with it under their pillow for 3, 6, or 9 nights. I also do that. And that is a great way to connect it to your energy. That's also a great way to get dreams from your new deck. You can ask your deck a question and sleep with it under your pillow and see what dreams come through. So again, there's lots of ways to connect to your deck. There's lots of ways to get in tune with it, but it really depends on your own belief system and your own energy, and try them all. See what works with you. See what you like, see what you don't like. And the most important part of this step with this practice is that you are connecting to the tool deeply. You're getting to know it, you understand it, and you feel a connection to it. So the next step, once you've done all of this, and this is probably a lot for a beginner, but again, save this video, bookmark it, take some notes if you need to, share it with your friends, do it with your friends. And it can take you months. This process can take months, but that's okay because you are growing. Every step of this process will help you grow spiritually. And you can rinse and repeat it as many times, and it can be as deep and profound as you want it to be. But it's also accessible to the very beginners as well, because anyone can do these steps. And, and there's no right or wrong way. So just try it. If you like it, do it again. And I do this with every new divination method that I learn. And it's good to do. It's good to just come back and reconnect with an old method as well. So our next step after you've done these things, and don't get overwhelmed because you have time to do this, you don't have to do it all at once. But once you are familiar with the tool, you've built that connection, you've built that energetic rapport. It's important to meditate with your tool. Again, many ways to do this, many methods to do this. Even if you're just holding the tool in your hand while you're meditating, that is enough to have that connection. You can just hold your crystals or hold your tarot card in your hand while you're meditating. You can also meditate on the symbols or the meanings. Just, for example, the runes. I've done that with the runes to connect with them. I've just, closed my eyes. I've visualized the rune. I've seen the rune. I've connected with it. If you're not a visual person, just, have the item in your hand, look at it, or even just say the name. You say the sound, out loud, chant it possibly. But just having it with you during meditation is a really powerful thing. It really helps you to understand the images and the symbolism on a very deep level. With something like palmistry or astrology, you can think about the signs, like think about the sun signs, see or look at a picture of, Leo or Virgo and meditate on what that looks like. Or you can even just say the name of the sign, or if you're having problems with the aspects, just say the name of the aspect and meditate and see what comes to you. See if you receive a meaning, a personal understanding of what that means for you, because that is very powerful and you can write it down as well. So you're going to want to start listening to your intuition at this point and how the tool speaks to you personally. You want to pay attention to those things that you're receiving in meditation. If you're not receiving anything, that's great, but you do want to pay attention to how do you feel about these symbols? How do you feel? What does the symbol make you think of? Does it make you think of a season? Maybe it makes you think of a color. Maybe you feel a certain emotion whenever you hear Scorpio or something. And that's important to listen to that intuition, because those are symbols that the tool is telling you how it's speaking to you. And it's going to be different for every person. And that's a good thing. Everybody is going to have a different way of interpreting what a tool means to them. And that's the beauty of divination, is that no two readers read the same way. But understanding how the tool speaks to you personally is going to really make you more confident and make you a better reader overall, because you're understanding not just how to use the tool, but also the deeper nuances between what divination means for you as a person, as a practitioner. So notice all of those, write those things down, and really think about, what does this symbol personally mean to me on a personal level, regardless of what the book says. And you can use the book as well if you want to. If there is a book, you can use the book, you can use the guidebook to get you started. But you also want to think, okay, the book says Isa means ice, but what does Isa mean to me? Right? Isa is a rune, if you're not familiar. It's actually my favorite rune personally. And to me, it means patience, and it means waiting, and it means divine timing. And yes, Isa means ice, according to the Elder Futhark, but also it means so much more to me personally because of my experiences with it. Isa may not mean divine timing to someone else. They might view it as being stuck or a blockage because it is ice. It's being frozen. But it depends, on your symbol system. What does this personally mean to you? In fact, I even got that tattooed because I was having problems with patience And it has helped so much with my learning patience that I think it's time to change the Isa into another rune. That's why I picked that rune, because it's literally a line and every rune is made out of that one rune. So I can change it into something else. But anyway, you want to think, the point is that you want to think about, what does this mean to me? Does this ice, is this mean a blockage, or does it mean divine timing? Does it mean patience? What does it mean to you? And it doesn't always need to match the book, but the book can help you. So this listening to your intuition, regardless of what the tool is really going to help you connect with the symbols and with the messages that the tool is bringing you. We're getting towards the end here. So finally, we have the time when you start giving readings to other people. Yay, you've made it. Once you've done all these things, you have made it to the point where you can give readings to other people. And by this time, you should have a really deep understanding and connection with your tool. Even if you are still learning how to use it in a reading session, you should have a really good understanding of symbols, of what it's bringing through, the messages that it's bringing through. And this can give you that confidence to start using it on other people. Now, I would say you can begin offering readings to your friends and family first. It can be helpful if you do it for free or for exchange for a review. Now, that's important. You want to be careful with free readings. I'm going to have a future episode, a future masterclass, if you will, about how to transition from free to professional paid readings in the future. So make sure you follow, like this video, follow this page. Again, if you want personalized advice, you need more information, feel free to find me on mysticsense.com. My name is Phoenix. You'll see my picture there. But I will talk more in depth about how to make that transition from giving free readings to friends and family to becoming a professional and offering paid readings to public in the future. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow. It may not be next week, but it'll be sometime in the future. But now, if you've made it to this step where you're giving readings to friends and family confidently, then there's no reason why you can't make that next step after watching my future podcast episode about how to do that. So congratulations. This is quite a divination journey from being the absolute beginner to the point where you're giving confident readings. So let's go ahead and talk about how you can do that, how to give those readings to your friends and family. So I would suggest at the very, very beginning to do them for free for friends and family, but do be careful with that. Feel free to ask in exchange for honest feedback. Let me know, did that happen? Let me know how that works out for you. Give me a review. What do you think about this reading? How can I improve? Because that's really how we grow. But at the very beginning, it can just be, hey, I want to try this new thing. I want to try actually putting this into practice. Can I give you a free reading? Now, I would start with the friends and family. Now, I would caution beginners to avoid reading for themselves. Now, this is controversial. Some people disagree with me. That's okay. But I personally would not read for myself, especially at a beginner stage. The reason why is because when you read for yourself, you're interpreting your own energy. And oftentimes we do block ourselves, or we let ourselves see what we want to see. That's true. But there's a bigger reason for beginners and why it's so important, in my opinion, not to read for yourself, is because when you're learning a tool, when you're learning how to give a reading, it's super important to be able to see other people's energies and to connect with other situations and other energy outside of yourself. And that, to me, is the biggest reason why I would not suggest a beginner read for themselves. Because when you read for yourself, it's your own energy. And it's really important to be able to feel the different essences of the different people. Now, pets are fair game because your pet has a different energy from you. So if you are sitting here and you're not sure, you don't want people knowing that you're reading tarot or whatever tool, go ahead and read your puppy. Give him a psychic reading. I did that. I've given my dog a psychic reading, and she actually picked her own cards out. She put her little paw on them, and she said, I want that one. It was the cutest thing. But go ahead, read your pets. If you don't want people to know about it, read any pet, even your fish or whatever it is. Reading your pets works great because they are super open to energies and they are super sensitive. So they're really open and they're aware. They're very empathic, and that openness is going to make it easier for you to get a message from them because their energy and their aura is not blocked off. There's no limiting beliefs. There's no pretentiousness. There's no fear there. They trust you. They're very open to it. So reading your pets is fantastic for beginners. In fact, I would recommend that as your main way of gaining confidence if you're nervous about reading for your friends and family. Reading pets is great. It's great practice, and it is a different energy because your pets have their own energy. They're not you. So you still get that exposure to that other energy, and you're still getting that exposure to those other situations, those other viewpoints, even though they might not be able to give you the direct feedback, but sometimes they do. So I would say, it's a great way to start reading is to read your pets. Fantastic. And when you are ready, you can offer your readings to friends and family. And it's important here, the point of this, not only to gain the confidence, but also to see how the tool shows you other people's energy and situations. I kind of touched on that. Super, super important when you're learning to be able to see other people's energy, and see meaning be aware of. If you're not clairvoyant, that's fine, but be aware of other people's energies, whether you're feeling it, whether you're sensing it, whatever the case is, even hearing it, being aware their energy versus yours is going to be really important, really help your readings to take the next step and to really expand them. And this is going to come with practice. This is going to come with time. It's going to come with practice. You won't be at this stage right away. That's okay. Just do your best. And then, write it down. If you're reading your pet, write it down. Say, oh, I got these 3 cards. I got the Queen of Cups. I got the Knight of Wands. And I got the Ace of Pentacles. And write that down. Say, this is my interpretation, for my dog. And watch over the next month or two and see if those things are starting to happen. Just notice, how is that manifesting in your dog's life, and that can be your feedback right there, just noticing that. But it's super important to get that connection, even for your tool, to get that connection to the other energies of the other people and the other essences outside of yourself. That's why I would avoid reading for yourself. The external energy is important to distinguish that from yourself, and also to get that practice with the cleansing the cards. Because if it's all your energy, cleansing it doesn't become as important. But when you're dealing with other people's energies, then the cleansing becomes more important. And the cleansing can be something you do on a periodic basis, as well as the charging whenever you feel like it's needed. But the consecration, I feel, is a one-time thing. So, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Thank you so much for sticking out with me. I hope by now, by the end of this hour together, you can become a confident reader in divination, hopefully, with some practice, with some effort. And again, no one's perfect. You're not going to get it right away, but doing these steps and practicing these steps and going back and taking the time to learn and practice, and practice on your pets, practice on your friends, practice on your family, even strangers you can ask. But at this point, I would say stay with friends and family, or even your pets. And if you feel like you are learning, you're growing, the more you practice it, the better you're going to become at it, the more confident you're going to become at it. You are going to become really comfortable with the divination tool of your choice. And then you can move on to a second or even third tool and do these steps again. And it may be easier because you have that foundation, you know what to expect a little bit. Remember, everyone, that divination is unique to everyone. No two readers read the same way. It's very unique to everyone, and that's a beautiful thing because we all have different abilities, and we all have different gifts. We all have different skill sets, and we're at different levels. So the more you practice, the more you do it, the better you will become at your own way of doing it, and then you will grow from there spiritually as well. And again, if you are interested in taking it further in the future after watching this, after you've done these things, definitely follow this page and definitely keep your eyes out for a future episode called Psychic to Psychic, which is all about becoming professional and taking that leap from free readings to paid readings. Thank you for watching, everyone. Again, my name is Phoenix, and I am a Mystic Sense Psychic Advisor. And I thank you so much for watching and joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this has really helped you on your spiritual journey. Bye.